Hello and welcome to the Ending Body Burnout Show. We are your hosts, Chris and Philly, co-founders of a multi-award-winning functional medicine practice, serving busy people with energy, mood and gut issues.
While busyness, addictive doing, people-pleasing and perfectionism might be the norm, it's not normal, and it's a major contributor to health issues.
Our goal with this show is to give you a holistic root cause approach to healing your body so that you don't have to continue doctor or diet hopping or popping a gazillion supplements hoping something might stick.
So get ready to heal your body, get your spark back, deeply connect with yourself and step into the life of your dreams.
Let's dive in.
Hello, welcome to the podcast. Today we have a great episode for you all about intuition. So we interviewed the beautiful Laetitia Andrac, and really it's a fascinating conversation about intuition, her definition around what it is, how to connect to your intuition because we're all intuitive, and why not connecting to your intuition will lead to burnout and poor health, as well as keep you stuck in things like your business, your career and your life. So Laetitia is actually a guest presenter inside our Ending Body Burnout Method this week, which I'm so excited about. So what you hear inside this episode today, it's going to be 10 times better in the workshop, as she's coming in to actually coach our clients on how to connect to and follow their intuition for deep healing and to live an aligned life. So it's going to be amazing. So for any clients listening, definitely come along live if you can, because I think that is the best way that you'll be able to access Laetitia's wisdom and her coaching expertise around intuition. If you're not a client and you want to come to the workshop, well, doors are now open to the Ending Body Burnout Method. So I'll pop the link in the show notes if you'd like to come and join us. We only open doors 3 times a year, and May is the time that we're opening right now, and we're only open for 1 week. We have limited spaces available, and also prices will be increasing next intake. So if you want to save up to $1,700, I would definitely be joining us this intake. It's going to be awesome. Our program isn't just group coaching. We also have one-on-one consults, one-on-one root cause coaching. There's trauma therapy. There's our online portal that takes you through the steps to end your body burnout. But a really special part of our program is we do come together as a community weekly to run workshops to go deeper on healing practices, coaching frameworks that we use to end our body burnout. So that is why we have Laetitia on inside our program this week. Also too, if you're wanting to learn a little bit more about what we do and you want to experience what it's like to work with us, we are also running a free coaching week this week, Rewire Your Brain to Heal Body Burnout. We have started as of today. So if you have missed that one, our today's session, day 1, that's okay. You can jump down to the show notes, still register. You can listen back to the recording. But yeah, definitely come along to that to experience what it's like to work with us, to learn more about our method, and to actually have some transformations and some big insights live on the course with us too. We have had many past attendees share the things that have shifted for them, which is so cool. All right, before we dive into the episode, I just want to read out Laetitia Andrac's bio, because she is a very amazing woman. Not only is she incredibly intuitive, but she uses this intuition to help other people, leaders, business owners, to make a big impact in the world. So she is the founder of Essential Shift Consulting, and she teaches impact-driven entrepreneurs and leaders how to weave intuition and strategy together to grow sustainable businesses for people, profit, and the planet. With over 15 years of strategy consulting, startup mentoring, and corporate leadership experience, Laetitia has led many successful growth and innovative programs in many high-profile global organizations, including Telstra, Doblin, Bloomberg, and the French government. She is a podcaster, speaker, and number one best-selling author of the award-winning book Light It: How to Trust Your Intuition and Build a Thriving Business. She is also the co-founder and CEO of Understanding Zoe, a health tech business aimed at simplifying and enhancing the coordination of services for neurodivergent children and their families. And we do talk a little bit about that too, because Laetitia herself is autistic, and so we talk about autistic brains, ADHD brains, and in conjunction with intuition and also body burnout. So let's dive into today's episode.
Welcome everybody to this episode of the Ending Body Burnout Show. Philly and I are excited to have Laetitia on the show today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
No worries.
Thank you. I'm so excited for this conversation, and also very excited for you to come inside our Ending Body Burnout Method program soon to talk more about intuition. So this is kind of like a little bit of a teaser taste of it, also to really get to know you. And I came across you through Tina Tower. So you did a beautiful masterclass, and I just loved how you integrated intuition as a whole, but also in terms of business as well. Because sometimes in the business world, it's very like strategy, masculine, go do the thing. Whereas you have this lovely mix of integrating all parts and integrating life into it as well. So I know that so many people get so much out of this conversation.
Thank you.
Okay, so we always love to dive into some personal juicy bits of our guest stories, because most people have got some sort of health journey story or some sort of burnout experience. Can we go there? Are you happy to dive into your own, what burnout looked like for you, what was happening around the time, root causes, how you healed, all that sort of stuff?
Of course. Do you want me to go straight in?
Yeah, let's go. This is in France.
Okay, let's go. So I'm going to take you to Paris in June 2014. And that was, as we record this, 11 years ago. And I was a strategy consultant on what we can call the top of my game. I was in Berlin facilitating 3 days of a big innovation workshop for Mike Bloomberg and Bloomberg Philanthropies. So for those of you who don't know, Mike Bloomberg is quite relevant as a leader in the US. And so he came all the way to Europe to help social impact and innovation in social impact for different cities in Europe to emerge. And so I was facilitating this. I was leading a big team, the big program. We had over 1,000 of people in that. It was a big strategy work. 3 days of being out there, delivering, serving, all of these kind of juice that I love to do. I actually love to facilitate workshop, but it was very much intense. And my body collapsed a few days later when I went back to Paris in the safety of my apartment. My body collapsed and I couldn't wake up in the morning, which is very unlike to me. So I've always been hyperactive, hypersensitive, so ADHD from a very young age. But that burnout was really not familiar to me. It was entering a new territory where I couldn't move. So my husband, it was my partner at the time, now he's my husband, was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? I was like, I don't know. I just can't go to the office today. I can't move. I had never called in sick in many years of working as a strategy consultant, which is a very high-paced environment where you're really dedicated to serving your client, to delivering big strategy, going into boardroom, all of this kind of thing. And I couldn't that day. So I dragged myself to the doctor, and the doctor told me, you're suffering from burnout, after asking me a few questions, taking my pulse, and, you know, me bursting into tears into the doctor office. So I was like, what? To me. Nowadays, I cry way more because I reconnected with my intuition. But at that time, like, crying was like, no way, this is not happening. I am not showing you my tears. I am a fearless, strong businesswoman in the masculine go. No way to honor my feminine, divine feminine energy. So no tears will be seen. And it was like this resounding noise in my head around, you are suffering from burnout. And for me at the time, burnout, it was 11 years ago, right? So there is a big shift happening since COVID, and burnout is more accepted as, something that happened to many people, which I know you're an expert around. There is more and more research around this, but at the time it was very much taboo.
Yeah.
It was very much a stigma around people burning out, especially through my journey as a strategy consultant coming out of one of the best business school in France. It's like those who burn out through the study and through the they're just weak. They're not strong. So I am a strong woman was really kind of the narrative in my head. And so the doctor offered for me to take a few weeks off, which I accepted because I couldn't anyway. I couldn't literally go to the office or see myself taking my laptop and going to a meeting and so on. So I started with 2 weeks off. And during those 2 weeks, I really reconnected with my younger self, the 20-year-old Laetitia who went and traveled to India, who learned about Ayurveda. The 5-year-old Laetitia was introduced to meditation because of my hyperactivity and hypersensitivity and my parents choosing that route, being very spiritual as well. So I just reconnected with who I was. And then I felt comfortable after 2 weeks to go back to the doctor and ask for an extension of the leave. And that's how I healed, by taking time and making space to reconnect with who I am. If I'm not people pleasing everyone else, if I'm not following someone else's definition of success, which was making partners in this big consulting firm and earning even more money to spend on even more Louboutin shoes and Louis Vuitton bag and all of these kind of things that now I only have like one or two, left item from that lot. Yeah. I got rid of many of them. I still have like one pair of this and one handbag of this, just as a memory of that part of me. But it was just this kind of lifestyles that I was going after, which actually was not who I wanted to be. So I was 30 at the time. So I had my Saturn return. I'm an astrologer as well. So I had my Saturn return in a very strong way, being like, oh my gosh, something has to go. And that's how I healed, by finding back the path to my own journey and my own self.
Yeah. Okay. I think I've got like 3 follow-up questions from all of that. Well, actually, one's a statement, like kudos to the GP to actually name burnout and not just take some bloods and say, everything's fine. I don't know what's wrong with you. Because I look back at like my own health journey and I was definitely burnt out, but it wasn't named. And so then I got stuck in the cracks where it's like, I don't know, all your bloods are fine. So it's just part of being a mom. It's just part of like being in life. When you say you collapsed, like what did your symptoms look like in terms of burnout? Was it just the complete physical, mental exhaustion, or did you have other things going on?
No, so I didn't see the pre-sign of burnout. So now I see them very early on. So I think I catched it straight away. I'm like, I'm not even going down the rabbit hole. But I didn't catch the pre-sign, around the migraine and being tired and not having much appetite and not willing to see people and being a bit more aggressive and a bit more sensitive. I was literally at the last stage when I couldn't stand up. I was literally having physical exhaustion, couldn't see anyone, talk to anyone. So now we know that it was an autistic burnout, but this came later around my autism and how this was an autistic burnout. At the time, it was just burnout. So I was also misdiagnosed in a way.
Yeah, wow.
We were not well diagnosed, but I was also misdiagnosed as a normal burnout when it was actually an autistic burnout. But
can you like differentiate the difference between that? Because you also mentioned ADHD as well. So I think that would be useful.
Yeah, definitely. So when you are autistic, burnout will be triggered by the sensory overload, by the environment that is not necessarily cut for you. So imagine taking myself back in these rooms in 2014, where I was facilitating in front of thousands of people and holding space for so many people and having to talk to everyone and looking at people in the eye, because I thought this is what you have to do, being polite, you look at people in the eye. So which is very not comfortable for an autistic like me, and every autistic are different, right? I'm speaking from my own lived experience. I always want to frame that, because when you meet one autistic, you've met one autistic. We are all different. So from my perspective, looking at people in the eye is very much overly triggering for me. So I had all of those over sensory situation doing those 3 days, and basically then my body completely collapsed. So that's how the autistic traits in me showed into my burnout. If I was neurotypical, maybe I would have recovered that time again and bumped back and be on a stage of burnout, which was not, as horrible as it has been just for those three days. Because it was like, my husband saw me a few days before I was fine, so excited to go to Berlin and do this big thing and spend time with Mike Bloomberg and going on evening dinner with all of those leaders of all the country in Europe, all speaking in English with different accents, from Germany to Spain to Portugal. So you have to hear English, which is not your native language, in different, I'm just trying to recreate the
I
picture.
would burn out after 3 days, and I'm not autistic. But I'm very much an introvert, and I like slowness and calm and peace. Yeah, that's full on.
That's the thing. It's like the sensory overload, the lighting, you have like those big lights in those big rooms, it's just like so much, the sense, like the scent of everyone perfume and the solicitation all the time, and so many people around you, and this brouhaha nonstop. So that's what could trigger an autistic burnout. And that could trigger, as you said, a neurotypical burnout as well. What I always say is, when you are autistic, you just feel sometimes things in a heightened way, but it doesn't mean that those accommodations are not suitable for neurotypical. Any accommodations that I vouch for in my work as an advocate for autistic and neuroinclusion is always much more comfortable as well for neurotypical. When I ask for dimmer and the light to be dim in an office space, everyone's like, oh my gosh, why isn't it like this all the time? Like, I know.
Yeah.
So everyone benefits from it, which is where we see inequity, and how by bringing equity into the space, everyone benefits from it.
That's so true, because really the things that you were talking about, and Chris has a neurodivergent brain, so ADHD, but it's kind of like that sensory overload will be triggering to anyone's nervous system. It just might be more so dependent on the person. So it's gonna be good for everybody.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's time for all neurodivergent humans to start using our voice. And even though we are 20%, I always say we are the hidden 20%. 1 in 5 of us is neurodivergent. And if we start listening to those voices more and accommodate for those voices in the workplace, you'll see the burnout rate reducing, because it would be so good also for neurotypical brain.
This is a little bit segue, but how, leaning into my intuition, I'm curious what caused you to start looking into an autistic diagnosis, and how old were you and what was happening around then for you to start connecting the dots?
Yes. So the autistic identification came quite recently, actually, through the journey of my own daughter, Zoe. So Zoe is autistic, and in February 2024, last year, she was officially assessed with autism after being misdiagnosed for a long time. And this is what happened as women. We are misdiagnosed with autism because the presentation is different from our male counterpart. And as I was gifted and ADHD, I was like, oh, that's who she is. But actually, autism is a big part of who I am as well. And that's why, a lot of ADHDers were like, but how can you get so passionate about one thing and go so deep and finish it and become, an expert in this and when I have actually moved to the next thing? I was like, I don't know, but that's who I am. And so now it makes sense. It's because of my autistic part of myself. I'm ADHD, so autistic and ADHD. And so I discovered it through Zoe's assessment, which actually happened for many parents. When they get their kids assessed, it's when they realize their own neurodivergency. And that's okay. It's a raise of awareness. But what I wish is for every kid now to know early on, so they can advocate for themselves, and it can prevent them from going through the burnout and the trauma and all of these kind of pathways that I had to go through, feeling that I never fit in. That I was always a weird kid, and the one who get obsessed which is a non-neuroaffirming language. So I prefer to say who has a deep interest in something different to the other kid or the other adult or the other people around me. So that's how I discovered. So it was in February 2024. And then I started, diving so deep into the unmasking. And so I can say now that I'm proudly autistic and I'm removing the mask one by one. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm doing this to please someone else, or saying, oh, I'm sorry, I need a fidgety toys now. Or, oh, I'm sorry, I can't look at you in the eyes. I'm like, no, this is who I am. I don't need to say sorry. So I'm unmasking more and more. But it's been a late assessment for autism.
Yeah.
And ADHD, it's been a reclaiming of this part of my identity through conversation with my parents who decided not to label me when I was little. So that's a story as well, which is around how it is actually powerful. There is a lot of research done around this to share with your children about who they are without shaming them or saying it's a disorder, but telling them who they are. So you are autistic, and Zoe knows she is autistic, and we know the impact it has in the longer term for their mental health because they can advocate for themselves. They have less risk of self-harm and burnout and ARFID and all of these kind of, unfortunately, situations that we see as co-occurring for kids or adults who are autistic or neurodivergent in some way.
Thank you so much for sharing all that. So
You're
good.
welcome.
Did you have anything to add before I ask a question?
I always like to, when I know I'm chatting to somebody with neurodivergence as well, I kind of compare and do, oh yeah, I do that. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I didn't notice that about me, but yeah, true. Half an hour ago, it was dark in here and I had one amber light. Just I find it so easy to concentrate when it's amber. And yeah, when you talked about the lights, I was like, oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Like when it just takes one sensory thing away. Fidgeting with things. It's so funny. Yeah. My current fidget is an ice pack because it gets really hot in here. And so I've got an ice pack.
My current fidget is, I turn the pen around my finger like we used to do, when we were at school. I would do that all the time. And teacher would because we didn't have fidgety toys. Like, stop doing this.
Yeah.
And I was, doing it back and forth.
That's gone.
It's how I would fidget. And I'm still fidgeting like this because if I take my sensory toys and I put it on the camera, like I did yesterday, I was on a podcast interview and I took a sensory toys in my face and someone was like, why is she doing it? Now I know the podcast I understand.
When I watch my replays sometimes in workshops, I go like this and I'm really listening and then I'm like, holy moly, I've moved 1,000 times in like 10 seconds.
Oh dear.
So funny.
To say stay still. How can we? Yeah.
What even is that? Philly, whereas Philly is like, and I'm like.
Well, that's actually, I don't know, you've probably noticed, but Chris will change the video and kind of like depending on who's talking.
I love it. I spice it up.
I always thought that was just like a tech thing. You're just trying to like be fancy, but I think it might be a regulating thing too.
Maybe. I enjoy it.
That's so cool.
I don't need to edit the video after. It's just all done at once.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you burnt out and then you started returning back to who you are and learning about the different parts of you. That's a pretty quick 2 weeks of burnout and then this is what I need to do to heal. Had you already had prior experience of that? No, okay, it wasn't. How long did this take and how did you find your way here?
Yeah, no, that was not that quick. It's like the first 2 weeks definitely of cutting all the external noise and being back in touch with myself, which actually I loved when I was little, sitting by myself, on a branch, on a tree, reading a book in nature, in silence. And that's how I grew up, fully in nature, always running barefoot and all of this kind of thing. Imagine I was in the heart of Paris, taking the metro all the time, the smell in the metro. Oh my gosh, everyone goes to Paris like, oh, Paris. I'm like, try and get the metro every day and the smell and the light and the noise and the people touching you. I'm like, I couldn't stand it. Yeah. So I just took 2 weeks where I made space. And so that's when I started feeling back into those rituals and those practicing of connecting back to my intuition. But then I took 2 more extra weeks, and then I decided to resign, and then we moved to Australia, and then I took 6 months off. So it was not like, it's what I always say, it was an overnight thing of many months, but it took a few months to really reconnect with myself and peel the layer of everything that has been imprinted in me, being very much gifted from a very young age, and having teacher, pushing me down a certain path and being like, oh my gosh, she's going to be perfect at doing this. And, then the manager in consulting pushing me to be this, and then the partner in consulting being like, oh my gosh, she's going to be the next, leading partner in the firm. And, like following always someone else's path, because I was in the phone response, the people pleasing response, and in the, I can do that. I'm smart enough, so I can do that. I can take that on, and so on. So it was more than 2 weeks, but definitely I could feel very quickly when I quiet all the sound around me that I had known that before through my upbringing. And it was just a reclaiming of who I was meant to be in a way. And this detour was very helpful, because actually those many years where I fit in and I had this career are learnings and knowledge that I can use today in my career as well. And I help people in a very strong way, because I had this neuronormative ways of working for a long time. So I can relate to those around me who are neurotypical, and I can help them with that. So really, it was longer than that, and it was a reconnection to who I was. So I think your question was, were you exposed to your intuition at a younger age? Yes, definitely. My upbringing, which I share quite a bit in my book, Light It, How to Trust Your Intuition and Build a Thriving Business, was definitely highly connected to intuition, to the cycle of nature, to slow life, to we don't need much to be happy. I had a very humble upbringing. So really a way to be always connected to the things that are happening around you, and trusting you as a sacred vessel to know what's best moving forward. So it was very much nurture. When I was 5, I was introduced to meditation to help me with my high anxiety, which we know now is linked to my autism, and my high hyperactivity and hypersensitivity. So I would go and meditate with my dad through like a mentor that he had, and I would sit in this cushion and meditate and learn about tapping. So EFT, I think it's called in Australia. So tapping my body and connecting with my physical envelope and making decisions based on my intuition. My dad would always say, connect with your intuition. My dad is a healer, and I have the gift of the family as well. And so it's really about feeling energy and connecting back. But I rejected all of this because my path was about honoring my strength in mathematics and in pattern seeing and in framework, and thriving into the corporate mechanism and being a leader in that space. So I had completely lost connection with my intuition.
That's so cool. Like everyone, generally speaking, I think everyone or a lot of people have heard the word intuition, but not a lot of people really understand what it is. Like, what's your definition of intuition?
Yes.
And I'll add in the follow-up question now, otherwise I might forget. Just the way that you said my dad had a gift and I also have the gift. Like, is this something that only certain people have? Like, everyone has access to the intuition, but is it kind of like on a spectrum of I'm super intuitive, or I'm only like a little bit intuitive, and how does that grow if possible?
Yes, I love this question. And so let's start with the definition, and then let's go into the gift, and let's go into how everyone can strengthen it. So my definition of intuition is defining intuition through different lens and adding different layer. So first of all, your intuition is something that is coming from your subconscious. You cannot really explain why. You're like, I need to do this. Like, I need to move to Australia. Never been there.
For example.
Why? I just don't know. But I know this is what I need to do. So it's something that is not making sense from a conscious level, but it is making sense from a subconscious level. And so this subconscious, some people will say it's based on past experience. Yes. It's based on things that have been told to you. Yes. But for me, it's also based on connection to source. Whatever you believe in, whether you believe in energy, whether you believe in God, whether you believe in goddesses, whether you believe in, you're animist and you believe in everything as an energy, it's a mix of those three, which is coming through you in those moments of knowing. So for me, intuition is this knowing where someone else is going to challenge you and you're like, nope, I know this is what I'm meant to be doing. And they ask you why, the 5 whys that we used to ask in consulting, but why and why and why? Like, I don't know, but I know this is what I'm meant to be doing. This is what I'm meant to be doing. And every time I trusted that inner knowing, that moment of, for me, it's this sensation of, for some people, it's a heart extension. For some people, it's a tingle on their crown. For some people, it's like this, sensation on the tips of their fingers. Everyone is having a different sensation in that moment, which I help my client connect with. What is that sensation? But it's this moment where you're like, I know. But why? I know. And when I said, we're going to pack everything, we're going to rent our apartment in Paris, we're going to move to Australia, my husband knows that, when I say those kind of things, it's like it's coming from someone else in a way. It's like channeling this in. It's like, okay. Or when we bought this apartment, it's like, okay, we're going to move this house. Sorry. I was like, okay, we're going to move there. We're going to buy a house there. We're going to live there. I was like, okay. It's just those moments where I know. I just know. And it's not that I am strong-headed. It's just I know. And in other moments where it's not coming from my intuition, then I'm open to have those generative dialogue and conversation, and I can answer the why question. Because it's more coming from the brain and from something that is rational and conscious, so I can discuss it. When it's intuitive, I'd say to everyone to know if it's your intuition or if it's your ego. Is if it's your intuition, you can't explain why. If it's your ego, you can start entering into the answering of the why question. Okay. So that's around the definition. You want to add something before I share about the...
Yeah, before we go into the growth, I had a few questions. Feel free to jump in, Chris, if you have something. Because sometimes I notice, well, this is a conversation that comes up in with our clients as well, which is I'm like, you're coming into a program. Is that it's like, sometimes I think I've tapped into my intuition, but then the monkey brain, like the thinking brain, will switch on. So is that sort of like what you mean by ego? It's your intuition, and then the ego is the one that will come in and be like, no, but you can't do this, or this is the logistics of why this won't work, and da-da-da-da. So it's almost like it stamps out the deeper knowing that is going to be good for you.
Yeah, in the language, you can know when it's the intuition, because it's I know, I want. Whereas as soon as you say, I think, you're connecting with your thinking brain, or I feel, you're connecting with your emotions. Whereas when it's I know I need to do that. I know I want to do that. I know this is what I want to do. It's just the way you say it. And then you know it's your intuition. But unfortunately, as we've been raised around not trusting your intuition and stop with your intuition, and intuition is bullshit, and intuition, blah, 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 like trust the data. But what I always say is like, you can tell whichever story you want about data. Yeah. I've been a general manager in data and AI since 2014. So I'm telling you, I know a lot about data.
I think you've done everything.
No, I haven't yet, but
I haven't yet, but I will.
I get you, sister. I understand. I see it. I know it. I get it.
I know.
My
sister from another mister. I get it. It's
so affirming, It's like, yeah. So when I burnt out and then I joined Telstra, I was a general manager in strategy, and then I was bored and I went into AI and big data. And so when I worked in big data and AI, I'm telling you, the data don't say anything. You make sense of the data. Data can tell whichever story you want. And when I was in strategy consulting, we would do that as well. It's like, is it great to have a profit 20%? It depends on the story you want to tell. Is it great or is it bad? Is 20% a good profit margin or it's a bad profit margin? It depends on the industry. It depends on, if you want to be acquired, if you want to sell the business, if like, what is the story you want to tell? So it all starts with what you want to say. The data will just validate what you want to say. And so that's where I'm like, we've been heavily relying on data, and we have trillions and trillions of data thrown at us every day. How do we make sense of all of this? Through our intuition. What's good? What's bad? What do you want to follow through? Your intuition will tell you. So it's critical more than ever to strengthen your intuition. To your question, is everyone intuitive? Yes, 100% of us can be intuitive. There's been a neuroscientist in the University of Sydney who studied for 12 years, and I met him only after publishing my book, and he published a book a few months after me, and we met, and we had a conversation about his findings through the brain and doing research in the brain, and my findings through trusting my own intuition. And we have similar finding, which is the fact that 100% of us are capable of using our intuition. But it's like going to the gym and lifting 1 kilo, 2 kilo, 10 kilo, 50 kilo, 100 kilo, 300 kilo, whatever you're capable of lifting. So not everyone has the same capacity for lifting. Like being autistic, I don't have the same capacity for holding space for people and supporting the light and the sound and all that. I don't have the same capacity for lifting 300 kilo. I would never be able to do that, even though I trained for years. So we are all capable of using our intuition. We are all capable of strengthening it. Then you have people who are more sensitive than others. And there is this thing which hasn't completely been proven by science yet. So that's why I don't want to say it. And then, it's like, oh my gosh, Laetitia said that, but actually it's been proven wrong. So an hypothesis that I have, which hasn't been researched yet, and I spoke with this researcher for him to start searching it, because we can see neurodivergent brain now through scan. So how is the connection to intuition if you are neurodivergent? The things that they've proven is people who have aphantasia, which is you can't see picture in your brain, tend to struggle a bit more with intuition. So that's just something to know that has been proven. But around neurodivergency, I think my hypothesis is when you're neurodivergent, you're way more connected to hypersensitivity. So you're way more connected to things that other people may not feel, which is why I mentioned the gift. My dad is autistic, and he has the ability without touching you to know where you are in pain in your body. And I have this ability to, even though I don't use it as a business, not something I do, but I have this kind of mediumship ability, which is not something crazy. It's just as if I connect with you telepathically and your body is telling me where you're hurting.
Yeah, wow.
So that's how it feels.
Yeah.
So it's intuition, but also connected to telepathy in a way.
You mentioned visualization before. You used a different word. Because some people, like I'm thinking about clients that we've worked with as well, and when we're doing kind of like more the healing work and tapping into the imagination, a lot of people freak out if they can't see things, but some people can't feel either, and it's more purely auditory. So can intuition drop in sometimes as a thought, or is that the ego?
Ooh, that's a very good point. No, it can drop in. So not necessarily as a thought, but as you mentioned, auditory, as something being clearly said in your brain. And those hearing of voices is nothing dangerous. You're not bipolar.
Yeah.
You are just hearing your intuition talking to you. So that's very powerful to actually know that intuition is not always expressed in the same way. And that's where I'd like everyone to start connecting with their intuition every day, to see where it feels in their body, how they can hear it, how they can see it, how they can taste it, because we all have different senses that are expressing to us. We have the clairaudient, the clairvoyant, the clairnition, the clairsentient, so claircognition. So we all have different clairs that are activated, and our intuition will be expressed differently. So there is an overemphasis on seeing when you do a visualization or an imagination, but you can bring those people into those spaces where they can connect with their intuition. And of course, it's harder because they don't see like a clear picture, but they can hear a sound or feel a taste, or having someone, touching their shoulder, or like feeling this sense of touch on their body. And this is where the answer is. We need to have them starting to connect with those senses experiences so that they can know what is happening and make a decision based on that.
Yeah, that's so cool. I definitely feel like I'm kinesthetic, and that's how, well, also data as well, driven. But
Yeah.
when there's stillness and quietness, and I'm open to receiving that intuition, then like the knowing will be felt in my body. I think you used a word of like the open heart space, so it's almost like my heart bursts with like rainbows and butterflies and sunshine. It's just like this is where I need to be.
Yeah, and your intuition cannot be expressed. There are some elements where you can trust and you cannot trust your intuition. So I can go into that if you want in a moment.
Mm.
But there is also a special place where you can listen to your intuition.
Mm.
If you're rushing and running all the time and you're always on having this parasympathetic system being activated, you're just on the go, 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 it's very hard for your intuition to be heard because you're driven by your head.
Mm.
Whereas if you slow down and you tune in, or you have a moment of quiet, that's when you can listen to it. So one of the key moments where I say trust your intuition is when you know that you are at peace. You're not having, you can use a mood app for that, check in quickly with your mood. You're like, oh, how is my mood? If you have very heightened mood or a very depressed mood, or, a mood that is quite in an extreme, it's very hard to connect within and hear your intuition. You're going to react from the emotional body rather than from the grounded, peaceful, intuitive body. So bringing awareness around this, then you can't trust your intuition if it's something that you are kind of doing for the first time and you've never had any experience before, because your ego will drop in and will be like, this is not safe. This is not safe. So trying to keep you safe, and so you won't be able to listen to your intuition. So I always say start with small decision to strengthen your intuition.
Yeah,
Start with those smallest decision day by day before you decide to buy a house or move out, in another country. Like the extreme intuitive decisions that I make, start with those small decisions around, decision around what you want to eat. And no, intuitive eating, if it's going for the sugar, is not intuitive eating. Intuitive eating, if it's going for the whole food, yes, it's intuitive eating. But if it's going for the sugar, it's not intuition. It's your body tricking you for the sugar load. So
yeah.
knowing when to use it and when to not to use it is actually very powerful.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay. So this is great because I think for people to really understand what intuition is at a deeper level, and then how, and I feel like your story kind of spoke some truth here, but if you wanted to go in deeper or a different angle, how could not listening, tuning into your intuition lead to burnout, chronic health issues? Like, where have you seen that show up?
Yeah. So definitely burnout is a big one. What I have seen is a lot of people kind of going through depression, being like, oh my gosh, I'm not happy with this, and feeling very stuck, the sense of stuckness that you have when you're not trusting your intuition. You can also go to, and I share this story in my book, of one of my clients feeling like you've lost your mojo. You don't even know why you're doing what you're doing, because you haven't been following your own intuition. So it's just you're following someone else's dream, or you're building a business around someone else's expectation of what a successful business look like. So reconnecting with your intuitions, and you can lean in towards what is the reason why I am doing this. Because a lot of people, they start running their business like they're going back to a 9 to 5, when actually you're like, seriously, go and get a 9 to 5 then.
It's a lot easier.
Because yeah, it's not easier. And don't recreate the things that you hated about your 9 to 5. Like, I don't want to go to an office space. I run my own business because I want to be by myself. Hey, autistic now, very clearly now. I want to be by myself. And if I have to be in a room and facilitate a workshop, yes, but once a week. That's what I can do. That's what I have capacity to give without burning out. So when you don't trust your intuition, you may face all of those challenges, chronic illness, and you can go to those extreme as well. And having, cancer, which is one of the stories that I share in my book, like your body will try to tell you. The word disease in French is called maladie, and it's the pain says something.
Huh. That's cool.
Mal a dit. So the pain says something. So it's about listening to the pain and what does the pain has to say. And if you connect more often to this migraine or this icky feeling in your body or this, like, where is that coming from? How can I fall back into alignment and listening to those subtle signs? So I'm also an Ayurveda practitioner. And in Ayurveda, we say, listen to the subtle sign before it becomes too advanced. And then the ancient Ayurvedic practices won't be helping you. And you'll go through Western medicine because that would be the only way to heal yourself. Whereas if you listen to the subtle discomfort of a dosha imbalance or of a diet imbalance, then you're like, oh, okay, so I could shift this. Like I noticed that being kapha, if I eat yogurt, then I have bellyache. I'm not kapha, I'm pitta. But just for the example, then you can quit the yogurt and be like, oh, okay, it's not that I'm dairy intolerant. It's because I need to listen more to what I feel in my body.
I love that. Yes. We talk about, like in our practice, loving messages. So pain is a loving message. When you've gone out of alignment with self, pain is trying to bring you back. Something's dangerous around the path that you've gone on because you're now disconnected with self. Would you say like the sensations in the body or like disease, is that a way that intuition talks to you, or that's kind of more a byproduct of not listening to intuition?
I think it's your intuition will speak to you through your body if you're kinesthetic. So you will feel this expansion in your heart, the tingle, in your head. I have some clients who feel like as if someone is tapping them on the shoulder. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So you will have, physical sensation. But here I was more using that as the disease, like the signal of your body is that you need to listen and tune in with your intuition. Rather than, everyone says you need to eat more of this and then you eat all of this and then you're actually getting sicker or feeling more tired or like look back and listen to your own body and to your own intuition. And I love the concept of intuitive eating, but unfortunately, a lot of people are using it to use it for craving. When if you're really having a healed relationship with food and you use intuitive eating in the right way, then it is very much powerful to do that. But there is some healing that needs to happen around this, especially if you had any trauma around food and things like that. So what I always say is trusting your intuition is a healing pathway. If you will access a clear intuition, the more you heal your own shadow and your own trauma and the own things that gets in the way of you listening to your true self, like speaking through you, like your inner knowing. But to listen to that inner knowing, you need to get rid of all the crap. So it's not an easy path. Like there is no shortcut. It's not trust your intuition and everything will go right. It's a journey like everything, right? And I had a client this morning who was like so sick of, the crap that I need to get rid of to run my business with the intuition and strategy. I'm like, I know, but that is an empowering path. And she was like, yeah, but this is a hard way. It is definitely a hard way because every one of us have a different intuition and a different way to grow our business. That's why I don't believe in the blueprint, in the shortcut, in the overnight success. We all have our own path and our own journey, and it's about enjoying the journey, right? Even though sometimes we don't love the views, but that's what we need to do.
Yeah. Well, I think it's connecting back to a lost language as well. So that's going to take time and it's going to be windy and trial and error. So talking about, so you do a lot of work with leaders, business owners. How do you see that intuition playing a role in terms of growing a thriving business or company?
Yeah, so you said you love data. So I'm going to share with you some data. So 20% of leaders who trust their intuition generate more profits than those who don't. So it's not a research done by me. It's done by PwC, which is a renowned consultancy firm, and they've studied that. And it's some things that I use in my keynote to, because I deliver keynote in front of Amazon Web Services, big teams of white cisgender dude. Sorry to include you in that, but but it's like, Chris, sorry, but many of them don't trust their intuition and they're like, oh, intuition is bullshit. It's more like a female thing when actually it's not. We are all capable of that. So I use those data to bring them in, be like, hey, do you want to generate more profit? And then also when you have team who trust their intuition, you have better cohesion and better diverse thinking and moving forward. Why is that? Because as everyone is having a different intuition and intuitive nudge that is different, then you foster this divergent thinking and this creative thinking and this innovative space. So I really highly encourage every leader to do that, because then it's a competitive age. Your intuition is something that no one can access but you, and no one can copy it. So when you weave together intuition with strategy, you just have a business that is uniquely run like you. And no one else can copy a CEO or a leader with intuitive and strategic at the same time. And I love to use both, because the strategy is actually the container. Like, think of a glass of water. The strategy is a container, and then your intuition, which is the water, can flow through. If you don't have a container, then the water goes everywhere and nowhere, and you can't drink. So it's about having the container as a strategy and the intuition in it. So I'm not saying don't look at the data, don't have a strategy, just go with the flow. Or I'm not saying just go with the flow. I'm saying you need both so that you can really grow a business. So what I have seen in the leaders, the entrepreneurs, the business owners that I've supported is, as soon as they start connecting back to their intuition, they're doing things in a way that is so bold, so innovative, so groundbreaking that no one can copy them. It's then you stand out in a way that is incredible. And so I want everyone to start doing this, rather than what I say, outsourcing your intuition, which is looking at everyone else's doing their own thing and trying to take it as your thing, which is outsourcing your intuition. You're basically trusting them to tell you what to do. It's about reconnecting within. And so I love to make myself redundant. I basically, that's my favorite thing to do in the world. It's like helping people to reclaim their own inner knowing, so then they don't need me anymore. And I'm like,
it's like, see ya, now you've got your own coach, your own mentor, intuition.
That really resonates with me. Data is the past. So if you try and drive a company, if you try and drive your car only through the rear vision mirror, you can do it. It's so possible. And that's what data is. It's the rear view mirror. Intuition really is looking forward, isn't it? And I think when Philly's hinted on this a little bit, we talk about vision or dream outcome or a big picture, a purpose and intent of what someone would want to have. And I can see some people who we work with who find that challenging because they're so in the past, in the rear view, and this isn't leading into our next question, but this is something that I'm thinking of. What are your thoughts around people who seem to be stuck in the past, who have insecurities or stories that drive the whole show, and they find it hard to connect with their intuition and get out of their brain, get out of their mind,
Yeah. So I'd say, so the way I position intuition is actually at the middle of this triquetra of past, present, and future. So it's like it's in this middle, this magic moment where you acknowledge the past, you're connected to the present with deep presence. I share this triquetra in my book, and you connect with the future and what's emerging and what's willing to be born in the future. And then in that moment, you have an intuitive nudge. Those who stay focused on the past, they're not going to be able to have this intuitive nudge because they're just trying to repeat the same thing or repeat the pattern or, have this comforting thing of saying, oh, I'm not a good business owner, or I'm not good with data, I'm not good with finance, or all of the story, I'm bad at selling, or whatever is their own story. So as you said, they get stuck in the repetition of the past. So it's very hard to move forward if you're stuck in the, in the back rear thing of your car. Sorry, I drive an electric car, so I don't even know how it's done now. I forgot. I've been driving an electric car for 5 years. The other day I drove like a normal car. Sorry, I'm going on an autistic tangent.
I love it.
Go back into the present. So I'm reframing my brain. So you get stuck in the past. So that's where, for me, there is a lot of work to be done again around acknowledging the past and knowing those patterns and having awareness towards it. And it's not about ditching it away. It's about acknowledging it, because this is part of yourself. So it's building a relationship with the past. What is this relationship that you have with your past self? And what has been serving you? What hasn't been serving you? And from that, you can then connect with the present, and you can then start connecting with the future. And then you can connect with your intuition. So as I said, it's not as simple as get rid of the past and let's move on. And it's not as simple as I see in the future, this is what I need to do. But it is so powerful. And having those moments of synchronicity, of those three being beautifully aligned, and then you have this knowing so strong, and at the same time you feel so light. So it's like this feeling of lightness and strongness at the same time is a moment where you're like, I know that's what I need to do. And that takes healing, that takes time. But when you set the intention of being more and more intuitive, the work is already in motion. You're being helped through the work. Like, it's not just your work, you will be supported through this work. So that's what I believe.
Wonderful. Love it.
I had an experience last week. We were driving to an award. So I was one of 4 finalists in this awards, and part of it was I gave a 5-minute speech. Not like a winning speech. It was one that I knew that I was giving, and it was more like a pitch on my project. And I remember I'm reading my speech to Chris, and I didn't feel it. I was just like, even at the end of it, I'm like, blah, 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 blah. And Chris is like, what even is that? Like, where's the emotion? You're not feeling it. I can't remember what you said, but whatever you said.
I was trying to really nicely say boring.
By the way, I might have had ChatGPT help me create it. Because I was like, running out of time, quick, got to get this done. Wasn't
give it some Philippa in there, like take the robot out, put the Philly in there.
Well, I definitely wasn't like leaning into my intuition or my heart space. And I think whatever you said, it was kind of like, connect. This speech should be talking to the person that you can help. And the moment that Chris said that, it's just like, boom, I thought of a client, and then I did a bit of rewriting, rethinking, got teary. Recited it again in the car, and I was like crying, like both that lightness, the openness, and I'm like, yeah, this is my mission.
And this is how people remember it too, because when you tell those stories that are coming from this inner knowing and this authenticity that is core to yourself, they will connect with you way more. And that's where connecting with that is so powerful. And yes, ChatGPT is not intuitive, but ChatGPT, I always say, is like an intern in the team. So it's as good as you brief it.
Yeah.
So if you brief it very well, and for me, there is no shame in using AI. My other business is fully AI, Understanding Zoe. So I love AI. I've been loving it since 2014. I'm not jumping on a bandwagon and a trend. It's a thing that I've been around for a long time. And there is no shame in using ChatGPT. I'm not saying that AI, and I actually did a podcast a while ago, I was interviewed around, is AI stealing our intuition? No, it's actually enhancing our intuition, because it's saving time on the things that we waste time on. So we have more time to connect with our intuition. And when you read something that ChatGPT is telling you, or Claude AI, or whichever you use, Perplexity, Gemini, I don't care which model you use, DeepSeek, when you use a model and it's coming back with an answer, if it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
And you're like, no. Rewrite this.
Yeah.
Add more of this. You're making decision. You're still in connection with your intuition. Those would take straight away what's coming out of the AI and use it as is. Please don't do that, by the way, because then if you do that, I can spot it a million miles away. But also, it lacks authenticity. It lacks this story, and it lacks this inner knowing and these intuitive things that you have within each and every one of you. And for now, again, backed by research, a lot of researchers, smart PhD people are studying about this. AI doesn't have yet consciousness and doesn't have yet intuition. It may one day, but not yet.
Yeah.
So it's our unique gift as human.
I love it. Okay, last question. This has been an awesome conversation, by the way. We've gone like in so many places. Something that you're very passionate about is intuitive selling as well. So with the business owners, leaders that you work with, tell me more.
Yes. So I have actually developed a whole framework around intuitive selling. Like, I love a framework. That's my autistic brain. Now we know. But at the time when I developed this, I didn't know it was my autistic brain. But I love a framework, and I am sick of people telling you how to sell as a funnel. Like, I'm so sick of this. So that's why I recreated a way of selling which is cyclical and which is intuitive, which is all about connecting with your intuition every time you have a selling conversation. In every step of the process of selling, you trust with your intuition. And then you're only welcoming the right people, the people who would be ambassador for your product, ambassador for your subscription, ambassador for your services, whatever you're selling. It's just those people will be the right people. So I always encourage through the intuitive selling, which is a light framework reviewed. So we use a light, same as in my book, but we use it for intuitive selling. And through the different stages of selling, which again, as I said, is cyclical, we're actually connecting with our intuition in every step, so that your way of selling is unique to you. And the people you connect with are the people that you really, truly want to impact and serve. They're not those people who are going to buy your product and throw it away in 2 minutes or forget about it. Or they buy your subscription and they never show up, or they never use the service or the platforms that you've been developing and spending sweat of developing this application and things. They are the people who then will use it over and over and over and tell all their friends and, be an advocate for your brand. So in the intuitive selling way, what I teach, which is truly different to any selling program out there, is it's not about build awareness, bring people in your funnel. And I don't know why I take this voice, but this is how it's coming to make sure that people don't think that this is my voice. But it's like, it's not about this. It's actually more nurturing. So the intuitive selling way is more like the farmer compared to the hunter. So the traditional way of selling is a hunter. You go and you kill. The intuitive selling way is more nurturing and cyclical. It's like the farmer who manned its land and its soil and the water and the air and the sun and plants the seed and allows the season to fall. And we know that there is nothing like overnight success. Unfortunately, that's what a lot of the let's buy now, build awareness, sell straight away are built on. What sell are stories, connection, nurturing, advocacy from other people, loyalty. So again, if you love data, in my intuitive selling course, which is evergreen, by the way, anyone you can go, and there is like a free masterclass as well on my website. But what I teach is the fact that actually it costs you way less to sell to someone who already bought from you, again, the farmer, than selling, than trying to sell to someone new. You'll make way more profits, 95% profit, from reselling to someone that you've already sold to, rather than trying to sell to someone completely new to your service. So nurture, like the farmer who is collecting the seeds at the end of the season and replanting those seeds in the soil for the next year to have, again, those beautiful pumpkin or whatever you're growing in your garden. Like for me, it's cucumber, pumpkin, and tomato are the best in my garden. But it's like, what are you gardening? And then reuse those seeds over and over and over. Stop hunting. Start farming. In a very biodynamic way, I have to say.
Yeah. Regenerative soil.
Exactly. Thank you. I had to say that.
I love that. It's so good. Okay, so you mentioned the free masterclass. So if there's anyone listening who is in sales or business, there's a great masterclass on your website. And you've also got your book, Light It, which is awesome. Chris is going to show a little picture, maybe. He's like searching through your website at the moment. And the Light It formula too, I believe, is kind of like the framework that you'll be doing inside our Ending Body Burnout Method program to teach our clients to really lean into their intuition, which I'm so excited about. And the Oracle card deck, you've also got some Oracle card decks. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure.
So pretty.
I had the feedback from a lot of my clients who are leader or entrepreneur about the fact that they would like a deck to go with the book, to have a reminder daily of what they could do in their business to help them and so on. So basically, those cards are born out of this need. And it's an Oracle deck for those who've never used any Oracle deck, or for those who love Oracle deck as much as I do. Like I have about 50 Oracle deck. It's one of my deep interests. So basically, those cards are really made with prompts for business owners. So it's about helping them tune in with their intuition and setting the right intention with their business moving forward. So you can pull a card every day, or when you have to make a decision in your business and things like that. So it's about reconnecting, like adding a tool in the physical to help them reconnect with their intuition. Because, when people say flip a coin, they know if they see the head and they wanted actually the other side, they're like, oh no. So then you know. So it's this kind of thing. It's like the card are a reminder of the key intention. So yeah, it's been received very well, and it's about making Oracle card accessible, because I'm very spiritual, but I understand that not many people are. So I created a new category in the Oracle card space, which is Oracle card for leaders and entrepreneurs.
I love it. I think that's epitomizes what you were talking about in terms of blending strategy with your own intuition, makes your own like personal thing that no one could replicate.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. I had so much fun.
Yeah, this has been awesome. So good. Thank you so much for jumping onto our podcast, and I'm excited to learn more from you inside the workshop.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laetitia.
Thank you so much for listening. We so appreciate you. If you'd like to give us extra smiles, drop us a review and spread the love by sharing this episode.
You can also rate your own state of burnout and the root cause contributors by taking our Ending Body Burnout Assessment on our website. And if you're interested in learning about our group or one-on-one Ending Body Burnout programs, shoot us a DM via Instagram or Facebook.
Have the best day ever.